Welcome to Let's Talk About It. A podcast gives a platform for real talk, real people, real topics, real conversations. Please subscribe, like, comment, enjoy this journey, and enjoy this ride. Welcome to this week's episode.
Yeah.
Hold on, let me
I
digest
know
that right there.
bad. It's bad.
You've only been there for 2 weeks.
Yes.
As soon as you step off the train, somebody asks you to party.
Yeah.
You haven't been there.
Mhm.
You've been there for 2 weeks, and you got a
Yeah.
cop who already searched your crib already. He says
Yeah.
he's waiting for a search warrant. He already searched it already.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I'm trying to take this in.
Yeah, I was too.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. That's a lot, because when people see this, they're gonna be like, "What the fuck?"
And what they had on the search warrant was really what was blowing me away, right? Because I'm like, I hadn't seen any of this activity. I hadn't seen any of what they're talking about. I'm like, what did I get myself in the middle of, right? And you got to remember, he was a good dude. He was good to me. He was kind. He was really what I needed at that moment. You know what I mean? I needed someone to just be kind. And he wasn't, there was no expectations. He was just being a good dude. Like, you're in a bad situation. Let's get you somewhere safe to stay where you feel okay and you feel safe, and let's just live our lives. You know what I mean? He was being a good dude. And this all happened, right? So there was something else on the search warrant that was hamburger meat, lunch meat, and cheese. I know. And I remembered a little situation that had happened a week prior. One of the guys, another dude who had just got out of prison, came over to the house. And he had a big pile of stuff on the floor. And on top of that was a police bubble light. And I'm like, I am not liking the way this is looking right here. And who is this dude? Why is he here? He was Mr. Personality, Mr. Sparkle and everything, and brought all this stuff over to the house. And he had hamburger meat, cheese, lunch meat, and all these things. And he's like, I brought all this over, you guys, let's have a barbecue. What he had done, Lou, is he had burglarized the house about a block away, went into some dude's garage and took all this out of their deep freeze. And I remember thinking it was really weird when he had all this, because I'm like, who just gets out of prison and buys all this food and brings it over so people can have a barbecue? Like, nobody, because you don't have any money, dude. So I was like, this is weird in itself, but I just let that go. But then when I saw the search warrant, I was like, motherfucker, like, this dude that I had the really bad vibe about. So he had gotten some trouble, did a burglary. Him and this guy's brother that I lived with had done a burglary of where they were working, and got in trouble.
Not the first time I've ever heard that before. Trust me.
I'm telling you, dude, so ridiculous. And they got caught. And instead of him wanting to go to jail, he just started making up all kinds of stuff that he knew. And you're going to get these people. I've got these people you can take. Don't take me. And it was a Friday night, Lou, and I'll never forget it. It was a Friday night, and he had said that he got arrested, and he came home, and I said, what are you doing here? He said, what do you mean? I said, why are you here? You just called an hour ago and said you were, like 3 hours ago, and said you were arrested. Yeah, I got out. I said, you got out on a Friday night? Yeah. I said, bullshit. What the fuck is going on? And he knew right that moment that I knew. He had just snitched heavily, and something was about to go down, and I knew it. I felt it. And I told his brother, and he was like, no, he wouldn't do that. He wouldn't do that. I'm like, dude, facts. He just came home on a Friday night. Nobody gets arrested on a Friday and gets out on a Friday night. You won't get released midday Monday. This is some shit I know. So
he gave up. He gave up.
Yeah, and they let him out. I said, Brian's still there, isn't he? But guy's out. What's happening? So I already knew. I knew something was wrong, but I didn't know the extent of everything. Like I was blind, but I knew something was not right. And Tony was already arrested by that point. And I was like, something is just really, really off here. Well, so what the cop ended up saying to me was, you can't stay here. You don't live here. And I said, what do you mean I don't live here? And he said, you're not on the lease. Well, he was correct about that. Okay. I wasn't on the lease. So I had nowhere to go, Lou. I had nowhere to go, nowhere to stay. This guy was taking me to my job, right? I had no car. I'm like, oh, this is not good. This is a bad situation. Here we go again, right? Now, I have been through many bad situations in my life, and I'm going to figure it out, and I'm going to survive, okay? Yeah. But I was like, this sucks. I'm really trying to do good. You know, I got a job, things are flowing, but this is going to suck, because I was pretty far away from my job at this point, because I had moved, you know what I mean? I'd moved in with him. So he had already been arrested and had this bright idea for me to talk to somebody about getting them out of jail. In that moment, I didn't quite know the extent of what I was doing, but what we're actually talking about is breaking them out of jail. Okay. So I know, Lou, I'm an idiot. So so what happened was he said, hey, I've got this guy lined up and he will get you a hotel room tonight. So you've got somewhere to stay if you just talk with him. Well, that sounded pretty good, right? Because I got nowhere to go. I tried to go stay with his mom for a minute and I got kicked out of there because they were worried. His mom took me with her to go stay at someone else's house. I thought she was taking me to her house. She took me to some other dude's house. I'm like, what are we doing? And I'm just following along blindly, right? And this dude, he takes me to work the next morning and he says, look, you seem like a really nice girl. And I laugh, of course, because I'm like, yeah, okay. And he's like, you seem like you got yourself caught in some shit. And I'm sorry for that. He said, but you can't stay at my house. And I said, I totally feel you. I get it. I understand. Yes, and he said, I'm going to take you to work today because you need to go to work, but you can't stay at my house. Well, they had taken all my stuff and thrown it in a dumpster. So they threw all my stuff away. Shit. And the cops took some of my stuff too. Let's be clear on that. They raided the house and they took a bunch of stuff too. Okay. They can say they took it for evidence, but they took a bunch of my shit. So I don't really have much at this point because I had came with a couple suitcases, right? That's all I had at all. So now I don't even have that, right? So this guy says I can come to the hotel and he's going to get me a hotel room. And I go and we go to the bar and this dude is pumping me full of drinks, right? And I am 19. So should not be at a bar, should not be drinking. Nobody ID'd me. And I'm thinking to myself, well, if this is a cop, cool, because he's pumping me full of drinks and that's against the law. So I'm good, right? Let me just drink. Sure. So he takes me upstairs in this hotel room, which the hotel was completely staged. And he has me talk to someone on the phone, which is actually somebody in jail that Tony had made a plan with to break him out. Okay. So I'm talking to this guy. I'm not saying much. I'm listening more than talking. Not saying a whole lot of anything. And he's kind of telling me what we're going to do and all these things. And I'm saying, okay. And the cop takes me downstairs and pops the trunk of his car. And he has weapons. He has explosives. He has C4 in the trunk of his car. Okay. And he's wanting me to touch it. And I'm thinking, dude, yeah, is this my first fucking rodeo? Like, what is your I'm thinking, I ain't touching shit you got in your car. And I didn't touch nothing. I'm like, who does that? Right. So I knew that something was up, right? At that point, the next day, so I get a hotel room. I stay there. The next day, we make a plan. We're going to go to the jail. He's going to drive me up to the jail and we're going to drive around it. And I'm in on this, whatever's happening. And you could talk. We had I don't know how or why, but we had the phone numbers and we could talk to each other in jail. Like we had the numbers for the pod and I could call. I don't know how or why, but I could call and talk to Tony. And so I call him from the outside of the jail and I call and I'm talking to him and saying, I don't trust this dude. I don't like this dude. Really want to just punch him in his face at this point. and I'm out. I'm leaving. I don't trust him. And we're going to go to the McDonald's down the street. And McDonald's, every single one is laid out the same. There's a door you walk in the front and there's a door you walk in out by the bathrooms in the corner, right? Every single one.
Yep.
And I tell Tony, I'm going to have him take me to McDonald's and I'm going out the back door. Well, all of this is recorded. they're, recording the whole thing. They know I'm leaving. He's trying to get me to draw a map of the jail, which I didn't do that either. Literally hands me a piece of paper and a pen to draw a map of the jail. And I'm like, this dude's trying to get me to touch weapons, C4, draw a map of the jail. I'm like, come on, like, really? So I knew obviously that it wasn't good.
Yeah.
And so as we're leaving, they now know that I know because everything's recorded. So I'm now getting arrested by helicopters, cops coming from everywhere, and everybody in the jail is looking out their windows watching me get arrested, including Tony, right? Helicopter coming down. And this guy says, he looks over at me and says, this better not be because of you. And I was like, shut the fuck up. So that's all recorded, right? So my attitude probably could have been a little different throughout this whole thing. And maybe it would have been a little better. I don't know. But they arrested me, took me to jail, and it was already all set up, Lou. Everything was set up. My bond was $100,000. Everything was all set up. I'm in this little cell, and I'm still thinking I haven't done anything, right? Didn't touch anything, haven't done anything. I'm still in my head doing what I always do my whole life, getting through it. I'm surviving. I haven't done anything. I'll be out of here in a minute, right? So not exactly the case. I am now in county jail, and when they came in that night and asked me for my shoelaces, I knew it might be a little more serious than I thought.
Exactly.
Right? I'm like, that's probably not good. So they had told me I was facing 16 to 32 years for aggravated, I don't remember what the original charges were. It's been so long. Aggravated aiding and abetting, or something to do with weapons because of what he had. Well, I never touched, those weren't mine, and I never touched them, right? So I'm like, no. And conspiracy to aid and abet and escape, and all these different charges, right? There was like 3 felonies or something. So I'm in county jail, and I'm still thinking I'm going to get out. I'm still thinking I haven't done anything. I'm getting out of here, right? And my best friend from California, my best girlfriend, was supposed to come see me that weekend. She was flying out, and I had to call her and say, we got a little problem. You probably can't come. And she's like, what's going on? And I had to call her collect. So she obviously knows, right? And she's like, what are you going to tell your parents? And I said, I'm not going to tell them anything. And she was like, Joe, you can't tell your parents. I said, yeah, I can. I don't even know what's happening. Like, I'm probably going to get out of here. Like, I'm just, duh. Everything's happy. Everything's fine, right? Like a freaking puppy. And she's like, you have to tell them something. I'm like, nope. And I wasn't going to. I flat wasn't going to. And she called my mom. So she still came out, and she came out with my mom, and they were at my arraignment Monday morning. And because of the whole escape issue, they had me dressed in red, shackled, handcuffed, all the things. I look like crazy person, right? And everybody else that's in jail is in orange, and they're just walking in. Everything's fine. And I'm all shackled and handcuffed by myself. And my mom is like, what is happening? Right. And it was really the first minute that I took a look at what was happening and like saw the look on my mom's face, you know what I mean? And really had to go, oh shit. Like broke her heart, you know what I mean? Like broke her soul. You could see that she was like, my daughter has not even been gone that long. What did I miss, And sorry, my cat just flew up here.
Hey, kitty.
Sorry about that. Sorry, I know we're live, but here you go. There she is.
That's okay. Hey, kitty.
So she's 17, so she cries. So I saw that she was kind of sad and trying to figure out what was happening. And the same cop that was in the house that day was the one that got up on the stand at my arraignment.
Oh, I bet he couldn't wait to get on there, could he?
Oh my gosh, Lou. He said some things that I was even like, what? Like he called me a killer. He said it was so ridiculous that I think I might have even left, which that doesn't help a situation, right?
No, I don't think so, no.
But I was like, what in the actual is happening here? What is this dude talking about? And he was just icing on the cake, right? He was saying all this shit. My mom and my friend are like, what? And so that, and I don't get to speak at an arraignment, right? It's just them telling what the charges are going to be. So am I going to be held over? Well, yeah, after the judge heard everything he had to say, I'm staying. And so a bond person comes in and gets me out of my cell, and he's like, your bond's 100,000. And I just laughed. I'm like, okay, what? I mean, there's nothing I can do with that.
Wait, was it 100,000 and 10% or 10% or no?
It would have been 10% of the 100,000. But at that time, that was 1989, right?
Yeah.
And somebody telling you your bond is 100,000, I'm like, okay, that ain't happening. I could have had people I could have called, but I wasn't doing that, So I'm like, here I am, I guess. And my mom said, you need to call your dad. You need to talk to your dad. So I called my dad, collect from jail. Worst call you want to make as a child, right? And he's like, I don't have that. And I said, Dad, I'm not asking you for that at all. Like, we have always had this conversation that the shit that I get myself into is my own shit. Like, my lifestyle is my lifestyle, and it shouldn't affect you. I said, Dad, I would never ask you for that money. And he's like, I can't put up my house. I'm like, Dad, just stop. You don't need to do nothing. You don't have to do anything here. This is my own shit that I caused, that I got myself into. I'll figure it out. And you could tell how bad he felt. But I'm like, this is not anybody's problem but mine, right? And so, Lou, I was sitting in jail. They take me to county jail. It was that morning. It was like, they take you at like 3 a.m, right? So that nobody knows when you're leaving, when you're coming, all that stuff. And they put you in your cell, and they lock you in, spray you off, do all the things, right? Humiliate the shit out of you, and then put you in the jail cell. And then, so at 5:15, they wake you up for breakfast. Okay. 5:15. Who does that? Okay. And so you got to remember, I'm like a meth addict. 5:15 and breakfast isn't even a thing for me. Right. So I'm already pissed because I'd been up all night, and they got me in jail now, and I'm already mad. And so I'm sitting at the picnic table where they send you with your little cup and your spork, right? And I sit down and have the spork, because you can't have anything too pointy. Yeah, it's a spork. And this girl walks up to me and sits down next to me, and she's just like, hey, do you want your biscuit and jelly? And I'm like, no, here's my fucking biscuit and jelly, bitch, here. Like, I was mad, Lou. I was just angry. I was angry. And so I know good. I'm sitting there, right? But that's where Breakfast of Choices came to me. I'm like, it's 5:15 in the fucking morning in county jail. I'm at breakfast of all damn places at 5:15. And these are the choices that I made, right? And I'm literally sitting there shaking my head at myself. Like, what in the hell are you doing? I am barely 19, right? Going, what are you doing with yourself? This is not how you grew up. This is not how you were raised, right? I'm doing that whole thing with myself like I'm the parent, right? And I'm just like shaking my head I'm mad at myself at this point. I'm just pissed. I'm pissed.
The first thing I want to ask you is this. I'm sorry, because your story is so fucking good. I am not going to lie to you.
It's like ridiculous.
Joe, I'm telling you, I think they should make a movie about this. I am dead ass serious. But when you first went in, right, and you can continue how long you've been there. Yeah. Like, what was the first withdrawal symptoms you went through?
So I had actually been clean for a little bit.
Oh, you clean before that?
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
I had been clean. When I went to Colorado, I didn't do any meth.
Okay, cool.
Even through this whole situation, like Tony wasn't doing drugs or anything. I drank, I was drinking, but I wasn't doing any meth at all. Okay. I didn't even smoke pot or anything. That was never really my thing, but I did not do any. So I was proud of myself and mad at the same time, because it's like, I quit the drugs, but I'm sitting in jail right now. Like, what in the hell? So my brain wasn't functioning at the right level yet. I'm still making the same non-decisions and doing the same things as I was doing my whole life as an addict, just people pleasing, right? Just going along with it, going the flow, people please. Yeah, I'll do that. You know what I mean? Just stupid, just absolutely ridiculous, not making decisions for myself still. And I realized that morning. I actually, because I had been clean a few months now. And I realized that at that point, I was like, this is the choices that I've made. Right. And I ended up staying in jail. I didn't get 16 to 32 years. They ended up pleading out. My final charge ended up being conspiracy to aid and abet an escape. That ended up being my final. So they had to take all the weapon stuff off, all the aggravated stuff, which I was like, I didn't aggravate nothing. I didn't touch nothing, do nothing, have nothing, bring nothing. No, not copping to any of that. So they took all that off, and that's what I ended up with. But it was such a highly publicized case because you got to remember there's an undercover cop involved, freaking all of their, resources with helicopters and cops and the jail and all of the officers that were involved and all the things. So it was highly publicized. It was in the newspaper. Like, it was ridiculous. It was ridiculous, embarrassing, ridiculous. But I was a small girl. I was like 98. I was probably 100 pounds at that point. I'd put a little weight on. I was kind of mean, a little scrappy.
A little scrappy, yeah.
A little scrappy.
Just a little bit.
A little bit scrappy.
Okay. All right.
But I had on this red jumpsuit, right? And so everybody else is in orange. So I just had to kind of use that to my advantage because they didn't know if I was crazy or what the hell was. So I just used that a little bit. I was like, all right, I'm gonna have to make this work for me because I'm not very big.
That's what I was going to ask you, like, because really, I've never, not that many people talk about women in jail. Like, before you move on, like, how was that experience? Like, especially around other women in jail. Everybody talk about the guys in jail, stories. I've heard plenty of guys' stories.
Women are worse.
How was it for females in jail?
Women are worse. Women are mean. So not to be racial or racist or anything here, but I was a 19-year-old blonde, very small white girl.
Yeah.
In jail with about 27 other females that were not white, right?
Gotcha.
There was a time there was 3 of us that were white and everybody else in there was of a different race. Not all black. I'm just saying different races of all kinds.
Yeah.
And talk about getting to see the difference in what people go through of different races when you're now the absolute minority, right? So I got to experience that level of what that feels like to go through for someone else. You know what I mean? And I'm actually grateful for that experience because I think that changed my life for real.
Okay.
And I'm grateful for that. Just, I have so much more empathy for people.
Yeah.
I always did, but I think I have more now than ever, after that whole episode or whatever the hell you want to call it.
Because you lived it and faced it.
I lived it. I saw it. I will also say there was some serious problems of people using that to their benefit also. So I got to see that as well.
That's very true. They do that.
Yeah, but I got to see a lot of different things that you don't see unless you're in the middle of that, right?
Yeah.
So it was very interesting. When I got there, you got to remember my lifestyle. I was already from the street, so to speak. You know what I mean? I was already conditioned, schooled, whatever, for that life and that side of it. So when I got there, I really actually got to see that's not really how I was brought up. It was a very different slap in the face, so to speak, of seeing and learning about how other people grew up. Learning about shit that other people went through. I didn't go through shit as a child, Lou. Really, my home life was friggin' daisies compared to what people went through. Wow. And I really had to look at that and think I made those choices to go that direction. Some of these people that are here never had a choice, right?
I can totally understand that. Trust me, I have a lot of choices either, but
yeah, I can remember being in jail when I first walked in. Or not first walked in, but like something I can remember is there was a lady mopping. She was mopping and it was kind of just like a scene you would see in the movies, right?
Yeah.
When they're mopping and hair's all frizzy and it's up in a bun and she's an older lady. And I'm just like, this is just crazy. You know what I mean? This is just crazy. It looked like a movie in there. And I'm like, but you're not in a movie. This is real life, right? And so, back then, it was just something that I had to go through and went through. I stayed in county for a while. Then I ended up getting sentenced to 5 years. And I think I got to, I don't know, 3 years or something and met the parole board, and they paroled me, and it was time for me to get paroled out, but they were going to take me to a halfway house. And I said, no, I'm not doing that. And they're like, you have to do that. I'm like, nope, not going. And so they took me to the hole that night, took me to max security, put me in the hole, and tried to come in and reason with me and tell me I had to go. You know, you're going to this halfway house. I'm like, I ain't going. And they're like, what the hell is the matter with you? You're getting paroled out. You're going to a halfway house. And I said, I'm not going back to the playground. I'm not doing it. You're putting me right back in the spot that you took me out of. I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
And I didn't. They said, you're going to have to go in the hole, and you're going to have to see the parole board again. And they're not going to let you out because you're disobeying a direct order. I'm like, do what you got to do. So they put me in the hole, and I had to see the parole board again. And they said, you know, why would you, what the hell's the matter with you? Why would you not leave? And I said, if I talk to you and I tell you, are you going to listen? Are you listening to me? He said, I'm listening. I'm hearing you. And everybody's staring at me. I'll never forget it. Looking at me like I am stupid, beyond stupid. You know what I mean? Like, you got paroled and you're sitting here in front of us again because you wouldn't leave. Like, how dumb is that? Right. So I said, look, I didn't do so great with the first half of my life, people. I'm going to admit that. I didn't make the best choices. I get that. I've been here now for over 3 years. I'm not digging it. And I don't feel like you all make the best choices in here either. So I want to be able to get out and do right and make good choices for myself and make a better life for myself. And you're trying to put me right back where I came from. You're telling me, don't hang around these people. Don't be around addicts. Don't be around felons, but let me send you to live with them. I'm like, that's not cool. That's not okay. And I'm not doing it. And he was like, oh shit. Like, I get it. I get what you're saying. And he said, are you scared? Are you scared to be put out with those people? I said, I am scared. I'm going to fucking kill myself is what I'm scared of. I cannot go back to that lifestyle. I just can't. And I'm not going to. And he said, well, I hear what you're saying, but you're not leaving me any choice. You know, you're going to have to finish your time. And then I'll parole you out. I was like, okay. So I had to go back to max, start all over. Now, by that time, I'm already in minimum security, right? So I got to go back, start all over from max, ground up. I'm just like, fuck. Be back, you know, confined, like the whole thing all over again, which sucked. But I felt like it was the right decision for me, you know? And I mean, they just thought I was ridiculous for doing that. But I feel like it probably saved my life. So when I got out, when I finally finished all my time, I had to, I paroled with someone that I grew up with. They were actually bikers, but not the ones that I had been dealing with before. They were the good ones. And they said, you know, come live with us. And I did. And they came and got me. And it was tough because my first parole officer was a real dickhead, and he saw that I was living with bikers, and he just made it difficult and hard and all of those things. And I'm trying not to be an asshole, but you got to kind of still remember my mindset. I already was kind of an asshole, and now I just did 3.5 years in prison. I'm really kind of an asshole now. So,
exactly.
Right.
You just turn up the dial a little bit.
Yeah. So I'm trying to be, you know, asking him what his problem, like, what is your major malfunction? Like, I'm out here trying to do good. I was lucky enough to get reassigned and get a different parole officer. And thank goodness I did, because he was pretty cool. I didn't have a car. I didn't have transportation. I was hitchhiking once a week to my parole officer's office. So when I hear people say, you know, poor me, I don't have this, I don't have that, I don't have a car, I can't do that, I can't get here. Shut up. You know what I'm saying? Just shut up. You do what you have to do when you have to do it.
Facts.
And you can whine and you can complain and you can victim all day long. Facts are, you're either going to do it or you're not. And the only one you have to blame is yourself. So, right. So I got through it, Lou, got through it all. Came out of it. I'm not saying it was all roses. It was hard. I had nothing. I didn't have anything. I didn't even have underwear that fit me. I had nothing. Like, I started with nothing. They gave me $200 when they paroled me out, and I went and bought some clothes. I didn't have shoes that fit, underwear, pants. I had to go into the little room that they had and pick out some clothes to try to fit. And I gained a bunch of weight because I'd, been in prison for 3.5 years. So I went from like 98 pounds to 144 in a heartbeat. Right. So I worked in the kitchen for a while, so it was good eating. So I had to, find stuff to fit and all that, and just relearn life again, like get out and figure out who I was and what am I going to do. But while I was in prison, I did realize a lot of things, and I did realize that, nobody belongs there. But that wasn't what I wanted for my life. And I did have skills. I had job skills. I had resume writing skills. I had smarts. I could pass tests. I could do all those things. A lot of those women could not. And I started helping them with this program called the Empowerment Program. And I started helping when I was in prison, teaching people how to do that kind of stuff, write a resume, what questions to answer on a job interview, how to speak, how to speak when somebody's talking to you, how to look someone in the eyes, how to shake someone's hand, like very basic things that I thought were basic that people honestly don't know. So it was very eye-opening. So I started doing that, way back then. And that's kind of just what I've done all along the way is help people that need help, and do that,
What you say right where you're helping people like do resumes and like how to conduct themselves and interviews, like my past guest Tendra Driggins, right, she does that now in the state of Florida, right, with her nonprofit organization down there now. And when I learned about it, that because she did it for kids, but she really is trying to do it for adults. A lot more adults come to. A lot of adults do not know how to do that.
They don't.
And I did not know that. It's amazing when you just said that. It just brought that up from that interview. But she still does it right now with her nonprofit, and that skill is so important.
Yeah.
Because a lot of us, especially me, God, I came in, I didn't know what the fuck to say. I'm like, I probably did what everybody else did. I can do it. I guess I can do it. Or I'm just agreeing with shit. But to get a real paid skill job, like you gotta know what to say, how to act, even how to write a resume.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm still not the best at it right now. So
I had someone do mine, Lou. So
exactly. It's like, so I'm going to ask, I'm going to ask Miss Driggins to do my resume because I don't know how to do that shit.
Right.
So,
But it was very eye-opening. I mean, I was in prison with a grandma, a mom, an aunt, and a cousin of a family. So that generational cycle.
Well, the whole squad was in there.
Yes. And so I came, like I said, suburban neighborhood, grow up, Mr. Rogers area. You know what I'm saying? I didn't grow up like that. So being there and seeing what advantages that I had that I just fucked off and didn't care about and didn't even appreciate as a child, didn't appreciate at all, wasn't grateful, didn't appreciate, was like, whatever, I'm gonna do my thing. To see it at a different level in your face was exactly what I needed. It was exactly what I needed to see.
Oh my God, Joe, right? And so I assume you got out, you're getting yourself together, and then you get married and have a son.
That came way later, Lou. So when I got out, I still hadn't dealt with I had dealt with a lot when I was in prison. I had dealt with a lot. I had a cellmate in county jail that was very religious, that would read to me out of the Bible every night, which in the beginning I was like, could you stop? But I won't get into that whole thing, but it did eventually end up helping me. And I started, doing some things for myself when I was in prison. I started going to the church services. I started going to the NA services. I started helping myself for the benefits, not just to get out of my cell, not just to get the paper signed. I really started going to learn all the groups, all the support groups, all the women's stuff that I could go to, all the classes that I could take. I started doing that to better myself, for myself, not for how it was going to look on paper for the court docket. You know what I mean? I didn't really give a shit about that. I knew it was just me versus me. You know what I mean? I needed to figure it out. And so when I got out, I was, trying to get a job, and I could get jobs. I mean, I could get jobs, but it was harder. It was harder to have that on your application that you just got out of prison. Getting a preschool job, not so much going to be a thing. So I started like getting cleaning jobs and things like that. And I would go to meet with someone, like do my application. They'd call me in. Back then it was, you went in for an interview. You know what I mean? It's totally different now. But back then, everything was face to face. And they would be looking at it and looking at me and me, like, and it became just a thing where they wanted to hear my story because of the way I looked. And I'm like, that's happened to me my whole entire life. My street name was Angel because I looked innocent, right? And so it was happening again, but just in a different fashion. And I'm like, you know what? I just need to use this shit. I need to quit being mad about it and just use it. And so
with it, right?
That's what I did. I just started not putting it on my application. I just quit. And guess what? Nobody checked. They do check now. They didn't check back then. They were like, they just believed it. You know what I mean? She looks nice.
Gotcha.
And I was well-spoken and I could do an interview. I've been teaching people for 2 years how to do an interview, right? So I'm good. I got this. So I just was able to start getting jobs and getting better jobs and getting better jobs. And I eventually did go back to preschool teaching. And that was a funny situation. And I told the preschool director, I said, here's the situation. I have to go somewhere every Wednesday. And she goes, you have to go somewhere every Wednesday. And it was my parole officer, right? And I said, yes, ma'am. And she said, okay, how about this? You work 4 10s and you're off on Wednesday and we don't have to know where you go. I said, beautiful.
Deal.
Beautiful. It was an all pretty much Black preschool that I was teaching at. And I loved it. Loved it. Let's just be real. They needed a white girl and I needed to teach. It's just a match. You know what I mean? It just worked. And we joked about it. We knew between us what we were doing. Nobody else had to know. I was good with it. So Wednesdays was my day off. I hitchhiked to my parole officer, did all that. Right. So when I went and lived with my friends, they had a friend that came out from where they used to live, and him and I ended up getting together. Now, keep in mind, my skill set and my skill level was getting better. My mind frame and mindset around men, I hadn't been around men now in 3.5 years. It still wasn't any better. I hadn't had an ability to work on that, right? You don't have the ability to work on that because you're not around any other than guards. I won't even get into that situation. So that's a whole nother situation. So I got together with someone who was an alcoholic, wasn't right in the head, was abusive, all the things, but appeared to be a completely different type of person just by looks. But he was actually worse than what I'd been with, to be honest. And so we were together for a little while. I ended it with, one of us is going to die here and it ain't going to be me. So I'm out. And that's kind of how that ended. And I moved on. He didn't move on well. I did move on. Got together with someone else eventually, and him and I were together for quite a long time. A different type of relationship. We really did love each other. There was definitely some issues with trust and lying and honesty and all those things. And we ended up splitting up, and we moved and we ended up splitting up, and he was coming back and forth for years. And I finally just said, I'm not doing this anymore. Pick a side. You know what I mean? We're either married or we're not. I'm a 30-something-year-old now, single woman, and you're back cheating on me every day. And I'm not, because I'm trying to be married and I'm not going to do this anymore. So, then we did get divorced, but still it was back and forth. And I ended up coming back to Oklahoma for him and I to get back together. And the day that I got here, I found out that everything he had said was still a lie. He had actually moved somebody out that Friday, put their stuff out on the porch, came and got me, I'm back there on a Tuesday and he's trying to tell me he hadn't been with anybody and had told everybody not to tell me. And this is a small town, right? You know, everybody's dying to tell me. So it was just like, okay, so same old thing. You know what I mean? Just lies. And I left, was there about a month, and I ended up leaving and coming to Oklahoma City. And he ended up committing suicide several years later. So that sucked. And you won't believe this shit, Lou, but my first husband actually committed suicide too, back in like 2016 or 17. So that was 2 husbands. So just some crazy shit, right? We weren't together for a very long time, but still, his mom called me the night it happened, said I didn't know who else to call. And his mom and I are still, like, she's a great lady, still love her. I was very quiet about what was going on between us. I didn't share a whole lot. He ended up getting married like 5 or 6 times. And the rest of the people did share how abusive he was. So, you know, everybody knows, but yeah. I didn't share. His ex-wife that was actually with him the night he committed suicide actually reached out to me not too long ago because she heard me on my podcast. So that was pretty interesting. And I had to tell her that wasn't the suicide I was talking about. I actually had 2 husbands that committed suicide. It's crazy. Only me, Lou. Only me.
Joe, man. Oh my God. Go. I'm sorry. It's crazy.
I know. So I had stayed single for quite a long time. I think 5 years maybe. And I met my son's dad. And I'm not even going to get into all that crazy. Yeah. But let's just say that didn't work out. Not going to bash my son's dad at all. So it just didn't work out. And my son is now, he just turned 13. So he was 3.5 when we split up. So I have been a single mom for that long. And I have really stayed single for that long. I'm not saying there hasn't been something here or there, or maybe a something here or there.
Yeah, I got you.
But I've not been in a serious, committed, we're doing this relationship. And I don't know if it's taken me that long to work on myself, if I don't trust myself, or I just don't want to deal with the bullshit. I'm not sure what it all is. It's a combination of all of it.
I think it's a combination.
It's a combination. And I'm just not willing to go backwards. And if you got to teach them to carry the bricks, then they're not the one. So, you know what I'm saying? Either you're building it together or we ain't building it at all. So that's just where I'm at. And life is good though, Lou. Life is good. I got a lot of good jobs. I got myself in sales. My main career has been sales throughout my whole life. Because as you notice, I can talk. So I can speak. So I have been in home sales, in and out of people's homes for years, selling. I sold heating and air conditioning. I sold real estate. I've sold flooring, remodel. Been in the home business somehow of sales for years and years.
And you do all that right there. You have done everything good. You're an amazing mom. You're raising your son. You told a wonderful story. I'm going to wind it down here. I know we probably not going to get into what I wanted to ask you, what I sent you before, but I'm going to work on that to get that to your podcast.
Okay, perfect.
Right, because I think that's more for you.
Okay.
But the one last question I want to got you, right? You have Breakfast of Choice podcast now on Spotify. It was on Apple and everything.
Apple, Spotify, all the hosts. Okay. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, don't forget, you know what I mean? Not only just subscribe, you have to download. Downloads mean everything. I did not know that. I just discovered that from when you and I talked, like on my side with YouTube, which I'm going to Apple too. And I didn't know like download is way more important. Like I need the likes and comments and views, but you need the downloads. Definitely go for that one. But when you start this podcast, like, you know what I mean, out of all the stories you've heard, and like, you know, like, how was that, right? You know, what was that defining moment that I'm going to talk to people with struggles and toxic relationships and suicide? Like, I'm going to put this together. I'm going to give the avenue, the platform for people to talk and get these stories out. Like, what was that? What was that defining moment you say you could put this together?
Yeah. like I had told you, I'd always helped people along the way, right? It's just something that I've always done. And I decided finally that I was going to go get my certification to become a peer recovery support specialist.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that. And that's someone that helps other people, like somebody that has a story of their own, somebody that's been in mental illness or substance abuse or all of those things and has learned how to navigate it, to help others learn to navigate it, you know, and learn those core values of mindset and goals and routines and all of those things, resources, right? So I did that. And then I took a lot of certification courses, life transformation, trauma certifications. I took about 7 different ones to get certified so that I felt not just my own past, but I also felt some knowledge in the area because that was important to me.
Yeah.
So I did all of that. And I did a Tony Robbins course, a mindset mastermind with Tony Robbins.
My guest yesterday was just talking about that as like he's like a life coach mentor.
Yeah. And Matthew McConaughey was the one that I took. It was called Road Trip with Matthew McConaughey. Mm-hmm. And I read his book, Green Lights, and I took that. I made everybody at work sit and listen to it. I'm like, this is what we're doing. We're doing this for work, and y'all are going to come in here and sit and listen to this with me. And they did for a couple hours, and I continued the 3 days of it and listened to it. And I woke up in the middle of the night, Lou, and said, I know what I'm going to do. I absolutely know what I'm going to do. I know the platform I'm going to use. I know how it's going to happen. And this is what I'm doing. And that's just what I did.
It's very successful. It's very good.
It was literally, aha. It was like I knew I was going to do something forever. I just didn't know exactly what. And it just kind of came to me.
How important, I mean, my last question for you is how important, out of everything you've been through, how important is this to you?
Oh my gosh, Lou. Heart and Soul Project. Probably the most heart and soul thing I've ever done, other than my child, in my entire life. It is so important to me because people need to have a space to not only tell their story, but realize that they're not alone. And I had a gentleman on my podcast not too long ago, and his story was very raw, very real. A lot of mental illness with it, all of that. And I had somebody call me and say, wow, you know what was so crazy about that story? And I said, what's that? I see myself in that guy.
Oh God, yes. Oh God.
Right?
I've heard that a couple of episodes of mine. Like they recognize something from anybody's story. Because you know, mine's is different. Mine's is like a menu, goes all over the place. Yeah. But I know exactly what you feel.
Yeah. And having somebody hear that one little thing that might stick, right? The one little thing that sticks to get somebody from rock bottom to rock solid. And just for people to know that they're not alone. Other people struggle with the same things day in and day out. And just to have somewhere to tell their story and realize where they've been and where they've gone to is huge. And just to be able to share your recovery process with somebody who still may be struggling is huge. It's just huge.
You are amazing. I'll tell you this all the time. Yeah, man. We talk. We talk a lot off the air. I tell you right now, ladies and gentlemen, this woman is amazing. Smart, intelligent, beautiful. Knows what she's doing. You know, she got it. Listen, we've all had journeys, and I tell her this all the time. Like, she is special. She got it going on.
You are so good to me, Lou. Thank you. You're so sweet to me.
We're going to wind this down where I'm going to do my little ending with you. We talked about it earlier. I'm just going to ask you like 10 questions. Like on my other podcast, I do my little 15 question, random question, stuff like that. We're going to switch it up for you.
Oh, gosh.
You know, I'm just asking you 10 questions. You can think about it. You know, you can answer them or not answer them. So let's hit it off here. Are you ready, Miss Summers? Are you ready?
No, you're scaring me, Lou.
Oh God, no. It's just your personal opinion, your answers.
Okay.
You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Best advice you ever gotten?
Best advice I ever got? Pull your head out of your ass. You're the only one that can do you and do it right.
Say, what's a luxury you cannot live without?
A luxury I cannot live without. Coffee.
You know what? I 100% agree with you. I am not gonna lie. I can't. If I get up for coffee, I'm gonna be tripping. But
yeah, I'm a simple girl, Lou. I'm a simple girl. It's not makeup. It's not clothes. It's friggin' coffee.
I hear you. What era in history would like to experience?
The 50s.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Biggest risk you've ever taken?
Oh shit.
I know it's a lot though, but it's a chop pick one.
Woo, I don't even know where to go with that. Damn. Biggest risk I've ever taken. This is kind of small, but kind of big. I used to hitchhike all over the place, Lou, as a young girl.
Yeah.
Stupid risk. Stupid.
That's very dangerous. Something you wish you was better at.
There's a few things. I would like to do live. I think I need to do live a little bit on my show.
Okay.
And I'm struggling with that a bit. How's that?
Okay. Is there a certain music or artist that you can really get hyped for while you're driving?
Tupac.
Hey, woman at the own heart. Woman at the own heart. Yeah, I'm saying. I love it.
I can sing you Dear Mama all day long.
What was your first legit job?
My first legit job. Oh gosh. I worked for my friend's parents at their accounting firm when I was about 12 years old.
You've had a lot going on 11, 12 years old.
My dad had told me that he was no longer going to give me any money because he knew what I was doing with it. So if I wanted money, I was going to have to get a job. And he thought I wouldn't be able to get a job. So I got a job, right?
There you go.
Right.
Joe, what one word best describes you?
Empathetic.
I actually like that. I like that. What's something you thought was true but wasn't?
Oh boy. That you had to do what you had to make other people happy. That your goal as a woman was to make other people happy.
You know what? When I saw this question, I answered it myself.
What is your answer?
I thought that the popular vote, this is back in the day, the popular vote decides the president. It's electoral.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not gonna get into the politics thing because I can talk about that shit all damn day. Yeah, I don't like what's going on. Anyway, last question for you. If you could ask your future self one question, your future self, what question would that? What would it be?
My future self, what would it be?
One question. What question would that be?
Gosh.
I
don't know that one. My future self, my past self, I can do that.
No.
My future self.
Tough one.
It is a tough one. I guess I might want to know, am I following the right path? Am I following the path that I'm supposed to follow? I feel like I am. But if I could ask that in the future and see if that was correct, I would want to do that.
I love it. Joe, we're going to end this right here, but I want you to get the final message. Like I always give everybody a final message. Someone who has heard your journey, maybe actually going through it. Maybe they might want to come on your podcast and explain their journey. But someone, let's say, like kind of similar to you. Of everything you've learned over these years, if somebody's out there, they know someone like similar to your story, what would you say to that person? What type of words of wisdom would you give?
Never be afraid to ask for help. If you are struggling, there is so many places that you can ask for help. Never be ashamed. Don't feel guilt. We're all in this together. Connection is the opposite of addiction, and you need to get yourself connected to get over that addiction.
Ladies and gentlemen, you heard her. Joe, this has been amazing. Like I told you, you're an amazing person. You're probably one of the best people I've met in a long time. Genuine, real. It was a pleasure. It was an honor for you to be on my podcast.
Thank you, Lou. And I enjoy our talks that we have, and I enjoy you being honest and you being real, and you just saying what's on your heart. I appreciate that so much in a person. I can't even tell you. And I enjoy that about you. And I love what you're doing.
Thank you so much. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being here on Let's Talk About It. I will see you next week. Deuces.
Deuces.
Thank you for watching the show. Please like, subscribe, comment. Stay tuned next week for another exciting episode on Let's Talk About It.